What is good? Welcome back to this episode of, or not welcome back, just welcome to this episode of the Vanflip podcast. We're already starting out of the gate. Good boys. So today,
Happy to be here.
today I'm joined by Tom, Andy, and Chris from the Texas death metal groove band I Am. Welcome to the show, boys.
Yeah.
So you guys are busy right now. Currently, you're on tour with Thy Art, Undeath, and the rest of the tour package for their 10 Years of Hate. How's that been going?
Man, it's been really incredible. For sure, one of our best tours we've done in the U.S. by far. It's like the melting pot of all these different styles of bands, and you get all these people coming here, and it's just, I don't know, the crossover of everybody coming together is working out really well. I think everybody's retaining a lot of fans from this. You know, every band in the package is doing awesome. So it's a great tour all around for everybody.
It's been a really cool experience too, because you take like Thy Art is Murder, the relationship they have with Kubicon is kind of like they give them a lot of opportunities to put on for them, and Kubicon's done the same for us over the years. You know, since like the Nomad tour in 2017 or so. So like to have it all come full circle, where it's like. And we've toured with Thy Art as well, but to have all these bands on it, just a bunch of friends, it's like a very family tour, you know. So it's been a blast.
And we should probably point out that you guys are, I'm assuming, at the venue for tonight's show. That's why all the background noise is.
Yeah, we actually had an off day today, which is why we scheduled this.
Yeah.
But apparently a last-minute show got added.
It's all good.
So we're doing it.
It's all good. I just wanted to.
Sold out tonight. It's our second Columbus show in less than 3 weeks. That's sold out with these same bands. That's crazy.
Is it the full package, or is it just
everybody except Death?
Okay.
And yeah.
And then there's a Chamber.
Yeah, Chamber got added today too. They're about to start a little run with No Cure. So
yeah, they're actually coming. They'll be here next week. That package,
okay,
the No Cure and Chamber package, will be here.
Yeah, that's gonna be real awesome.
Yeah, I really dig that No Cure band. I'm not a straight edge kind of guy, but you know, I like Blake's a pretty cool dude, and his band is pretty decent. Yeah.
Yeah, we just got to watch. They played the Alabama show.
Oh, dope. So what do you guys say?
Yeah, there's drummers fucking incredible.
He's from like another band called Bleak in Texas as well. Yeah, he's just insane. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fun guy. Cool.
Where are you guys at today? Right now?
Columbus.
Oh, Columbus. You already said that. Yeah, I'm an idiot. So
yeah. Columbus at Days Cups.
Nice. So yeah, you guys have been around for a handful of years. You know, early 2010s, that time frame. What kind of I mean, you're on the Thy Art tour, and obviously you probably listened to them. But what got you into like the heavier stuff and death metal and all that stuff? How'd you fall into this?
So really early on, I mean, if we're talking about the 2010 to 12s era, you know, you could probably guess that Molotov Solution was like a real big influence to the band at that time.
Right.
You know, bands of those likes, and then as the years progress, you know, you get into different things, and things form differently, and get new members who have other influences, and you know, so. But definitely early on is a lot more of the earlier deathcore stuff, you know.
Yeah. Are you not steering clear of the deathcore thing, but are you trying to do more like groove death metal sounds, or is it just something that you kind of like, you know, we did the deathcore thing for a little bit, let's try to progress and mature our sound or something like that, or how do you go about it?
We were kids, man, you know, like, and we started playing a band not knowing how to do like play any instruments pretty much like the older members. You know, we picked up these instruments in high school and like, yeah, let's start a band. We like Molotov, like let's do this. You know, so it's like it's so early on in the conception year, so you don't even have time to really figure out what you really do dig. You know,
Mm-hmm.
You come so far from a teenager. And now that we're adults, and it just takes on a whole new level field. But to go back to your question, I don't think we've abandoned it at all. I just think we're writing stuff that's true to ourselves and that we want to play. We're a very selfish band in that way, that we write music that we genuinely want to hear, we like. It's not really, oh, we're going to cater to the people that like I Am, because if that were the case, we would have just put out Life Through Torment 10 times in a row, you know. But we're consistently trying to progress and trying to be better musicians, you know, better people, and we're trying to up the game. You know, we just keep putting out shit that we want to like, and if it translates, that's awesome, you know. And it seems like it is, which is great for us.
So especially with my perspective, is like we talk about the roots of the band and like the original like the deathcore stuff. It's like they already had a platform before I joined. So like, I joined before the first album, so they were already like kind of popping off in DFW, and so when I joined, it was like not really time to change like direction. It was more like, okay, let's write like what the fans of this band need to hear, like want to hear, you know, because they already have that sound going. And then so over time, it's kind of like evolved into, you know, just like being true to, like you say, like being true to yourselves instead of like a certain sound that you think you have to stick with. It's more just like, you know, exploring some creative freedom, you know, just like do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it changed, but we still like elements from the first stuff, from the second stuff. You know, it's just like, you know, we feel more free to put out the music that we want to do now.
I feel like part of it is just pushing ourselves as musicians as well, like you mentioned before.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it I would say it gets old, you know, playing breakdowns over and over. So like to be able to play, we're like also into like thrash metal bands and stuff like that. It's just cool to be able to push ourselves a little more and stuff.
And especially the more songs you have and the more styles you're dipping into, it's like, yeah, we still have like lots of breakdowns. We just try to use them in really cool spots, or like try to do something different with this. So like we're not like abandoning anything. We're just like being more particular with how we want to use certain sounds.
Yeah, melding the two together to make this weird thing we have. You know, like.
I mean, you're finding.
I do feel like we are a very unique band in that way, where, you know, it's kind of hard to pinpoint what we are. You know, like it's, yes, the 10 people, they're going to tell you 10 different things because they're just like, I don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely sounds like and I don't say this in a bad way, but a hodgepodge of like, you know, styles put together. Because, you know, I'm trying to listen to, well, I was listening to the your most recent release, the Eternal Steel album you guys put out in September last year, and I was trying to, you know, I literally just hopped off the podcast with Obituary, and you guys are both technically, you know, under the umbrella of the death, you know, sound, death metal, if you want to call it that. But they're just, you're drastically different in a lot of ways between, you know, a traditional, I don't even want to call them a traditional death metal band, because they have groove and slower stuff too. But it is kind of night and day different how you guys, the newer class of bands, are approaching that genre as compared to like the guys that have been around for, you know, a number of years and probably have honed in their writing style, their sound a little bit more. And again, those guys, not saying they don't explore and do other things like you guys were just saying, like, you know, stretching your legs and doing things outside of the box that you normally would do. But like, you guys are just now getting the opportunity to do that a little bit. Whereas, you know, when you were younger, you just want to make, like you just said, you want to make stuff that the crowd kind of wants to hear, and you want to kind of build a base, so to speak, so that way you can, you know, stretch out every now and then and step out of the box a little bit. Do you guys think that you'll continue doing that as you go forward, or do you gotta, you know, do you want I Am to be around a certain sound all the time?
I mean, I would say, especially with this newest album, Eternal Steel, we have found our sound and our thing. You know, like that's definitely what we're going to build off of. And that was the same case with Hard to Kill from Life Through Torment. You know, when we wrote Hard to Kill, it was like, oh man, I can see where the next steps are going to go. You know, it's not like it's a very like, you know, we're just throwing shit at the wall and see if it sticks. You know, it's like we do have a very good direction of what we want to do. It's just not what most people do. You know, like you're saying, you know, a lot of the old timers or people who have been doing a certain style of music for so long, it's like, yeah, you have your thing. You have what you've been doing for a while, and it's established. You got your thing. this is our thing. You know, this is what we're doing to contribute to heavy music. You know, we're making something that is unique to ourselves and unique to metal all around, I feel like. You know, so it's definitely something that we're going to keep doing. We're going to keep pushing ourselves to be a better band that, you know, consistently writes different shit, or, you know, however the listener wants to perceive it, but whatever it is, it's just authentically us.
Yeah.
You know?
How long do you guys, I mean, and this is obviously subject to whatever input, but, you know, certain bands have kind of like a cycle, so to speak. You know, you guys just put an album out last year, and the year before, and prior to that, it was 2018 or 17 or whatnot. But again, we had like a pandemic in between that kind of, you know, took a year and a half, 2 years outside of the cycle. So, do you guys plan to be a band that kind of just every couple years puts an album out, or is it more frequently or less frequently? Or do you even think about it?
I mean, we have a few ideas of like, you know, what we want to try to, as far as like the next release, what we want to try to do. But, you know, typically, I mean, there normally would be a writing cycle and like a release and tour cycle and all that. But yeah, like with the pandemic, it kind of all got like messed up. And then, you know, like we've been sitting on this record for a while, so it's like, and then we've been touring quite a bit as well. Yeah. So, you know, dipping back into this next couple of months is probably going to be, you know, a bit of like writing season, but we're not really sure if it's going to be like, hey, we want to put out an album every 2 years or every 2.5. Like, we haven't really gotten that far yet. I like to take the time with, like, for sure, making sure that the music's where it needs to be before we release something. Because, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like an extra couple of months or an extra year or whatever, if it made those songs, like, really memorable and worth it, then, you know, not really a reason to push it to, like, oh, we got to have it released 6 months from now. You know, like, we want to make sure that the foundation, like, the music's there first. You know, but we're just kind of like taking it as it comes and seeing, you know, what ideas we come with, what songs we put together, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and then with releasing Eternal Steel, it was a pretty strange time just because we did record it in 2020. It was done.
Done.
And it didn't get released for another 2 years. And so that was kind of a weird spot for us at that time too, because we were like, man, we were ready to go. We were on track to just, you know, go. And, you know, other people in our camp just felt like we needed to wait a little longer. So, you know, it just got pushed. So hopefully it doesn't take another 4 years to get another album out. Yeah. Don't want that to happen at all.
Yeah.
So
on the other side, we don't want to just push out album after album and it not, you know, be exactly what we want it to be. Right. You know what I mean? I definitely am a, you know, quality over quantity kind of person. I think we all are. So yeah.
I gotcha. And what are some things that you enjoyed about this particular album that maybe weren't on Hard to Kill or the previous, you know, releases?
Just the feeling. Like, I mean, all the riffs were, yeah. So there's stuff that, like I've mentioned, I joined right before the first album. There was stuff like when we were writing that first album that I wanted to use, and that I'm probably going to try to use on like some of the next records that at Pocket because it just wouldn't fit. So like for me, like this album, I like a lot of it just because it's like what I've been wanting to do since I got going. And then like now we're in a spot where it makes sense for us to incorporate those sounds and to like pursue this kind of direction. So. Yeah, I mean that's kind of where it comes from for me, but
yeah, and like what he was saying, I was just about to blurt out feeling too. Like the feeling of this album just has so much energy. It has so much life to it, and like at least when I listen to it, it just feels so animated. You know, like there's a lot going on. Like you can feel the riffs, the memorable riffs. You know, everything about it. Like I don't know. I just feel like it has a lot more catchy, a lot more groove, you know, and that's one thing we always try to make sure to do is keep energy levels up, keep groove there, because it can be technical and it can be fast and it can be cool, but if you can't vibe with it, if you can't groove with it, it ain't shit to me.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's what we like. We like to feel the music. You know?
So even after sorry, go ahead, Chris.
a raw aspect to it. Like, it's our most real sounding record, you know, least produced, just, you know, 5 dudes in the room, you know, jamming out. That kind of just true to real sound is, you know, something I appreciate a lot compared to the other records.
So is there a lot of like mastering and other stuff that are done after the fact, or because you said it's just like a raw sound, so is it just like more naturally recorded, whereas like I don't know, like the Chariot?
Yeah, just a lot of post-production type of stuff. Like I had a very specific sound with like drums, and like you take Randy Leboeuf's like normal drum sound, or like what he would do for another band, and I was just like, I want this spin on that sound. So you know, I was having like a bit of like hall mic, you know, reverb, drums, and stuff like that. The type of amps we were using, stuff like that. So it just kind of made it more sound a bit more classic, like that modern classic mix of production. So
yeah, you get in the habit of things that sound super processed or digital now. You know, as much as our producer Randy, he pushes us. You know, I feel like we kind of pushed him with that record a bit. You know, to like, you know, hey, let's bring it down a little bit. You know, let's make it a little raw. So, and I think it sounds awesome.
Yeah,
he crushed. You know, everybody crushed it. So it was awesome.
Do you get time to kind of like explore in the studio, or do you guys have everything kind of like, you know, dialed in before you get into the studio to save time and everything, or do you have the ability and the luxury to kind of like mess around in the studio with either riffs, sounds, patterns, or parts to the songs you currently have established? When, you know, the producer Randy or whomever kind of starts giving his input, do you guys have a lot of, you know, flexibility in that aspect, or do you come in with like, here's a finished product and we just want to nail it out?
I mean, I like to be very prepared, even though it's, you know, I don't think we've ever come to a studio with like everything 100% done, but it's like the songs and transitions and bass parts, arrangements, like all that's done at least like 80% before we get there, and then the studio pre-pro week is just like
first week.
That's like like I'll retrack the demos that I have with Randy, and then he'll like listen. He'll be like, you know, if there's something that we're stuck on, like, hey, I don't know what to do. You know, like we'll just like kind of mess around for a little bit, but pretty much everything's done before we get there, and then that pre-pro time just for like finishing touches, or like we need like another, and we just need an ending to the song type of thing, or maybe we can do this part, you know, for another repetition, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there were certain parts too that we wanted to jam in the room, you know, and feel it out, like how it would go live or how it would feel in a live setting. And yeah, it was very flexible in that sense, where anytime we needed to do that, you know, unless we were tracking, obviously, we were able to, you know, jam things out and just see how they feel in a live room and such, you know.
How did you guys... Go ahead. Finish it up.
Sorry, I was just saying, on our previous record we did with Randy, you know, there's our favorite song off the record pretty much is Feel Like the Skin, and, you know, almost half that song was written there, or like a lot of it was like written there.
Nice.
You know, piece together there, and that turns out to be our favorite song. So sometimes it just happens like that, you know, it works out in favor.
So how did you guys kind of link up with Randy in the beginning? You guys were just like big Gag fans, and you just wanted to work with him, or you just kind of liked his work, you know, his production work and recording work?
It actually happened because we took that tour, or actually, I just say took that, but KubaCon took us out on tour in 2017, and that was like our first, like, you know, that was our first tour that was like, big for us at least, and you know, that tour did so much for us. It got us linked up with Randy because he came out to see them. He saw us play, and he was like, "I would love to do your next record. Yeah, let's talk." So that happened. We got linked up with our manager because of that tour, because it came out, you know, and you know, who we put merch through, they came out and they started, you know, really helping us out. Like, that tour just did so much for us at the time, and that's how that happened too with me and Randy. Yeah.
Are you guys one of the heavier bands that he's kind of produced in the last couple of years, or because he's done metalcore for sure, and he's done, you know, he did some work with a couple other bands, but when I look at the lineup, yeah, I'm going to say I think you're like the heavier of the Discog.
Yeah, I mean, I know like Kubacon's incredibly heavy, and they just did like orthodox and chamber, but I think we're probably only like one that has like, I guess, a lot of like thrash metal influence or like that lane of metal. Yeah, I mean, all of his bands are pretty heavy.
Yeah,
so that's a hard.
Yeah, he's got a real good roster of bands.
Yeah,
he's just trying to.
Yeah, and I think that's why it was real cool to do this record with him because, like I said, like I feel like it kind of pushed him to be with a band that is a bit more like, riff driven or like, not necessarily a lot of breakdowns, if you will.
Yeah. So Tom and Chris, I guess this question goes more towards you, but Andy, feel free to chime in if you have an input. But what makes a riff? And it doesn't have to be a riff like what a real riff is, but what makes an IAM riff? I guess I should more clarification.
I'd say the most part of it would be groove, like just being able to like the certain riffs that we have that our fans really like, or the people that we're playing to. I feel like it's natural for them to headbang or just kind of like even almost dance, just like groove around. So I feel like that feel is really important. It could be there are riffs that are super fast and technical, and they might not feel that immediately. They see it as a riff, but I think the groove element of it, is very important. Being able to feel the riff, But yeah, for me,
memorability is definitely big. It's something you can sing back to yourself. Like if it makes you want to sing it back to yourself, it's probably pretty. And then also just something that, especially when we're writing, like I know it's a riff when I'm like, all right, this one's cool. It's fun to play. Like it gets me excited.
Yeah.
Also like a lot of like simplicity, but then doing some cool arrangement wise with how simple that riff was. If it makes sense, like we did get a bit more technical with this next album, or with this newest one, but I also really do like the most simple stuff. And then oftentimes it's just like a little arrangement, like changing on an ending or something that makes something really memorable, or it makes it a special moment in the song,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, riffs. It's hard to tell, like what makes an IM riff, because we have a lot of different kinds.
For sure, yeah. But that's why I like to ask, get the mindset.
I say groove and catchy, the energy, being able to dance. You just feel it. Like it's. You listen to the entire title track, Eternal Steel, like it's a fast song,
right?
But it is so catchy, it's so groovy.
Yeah,
there's dance parts, like it just feels like I don't know.
Definitely No Choice as well, because like that song, like that, they put on that last ending to the riff, that's the tremolo deal. It's like it makes it like evil sounding now. Now it's like melody has like a lot to do with like how a riff ends up getting like catchy, I guess. Yeah. So just doing cool No Choices is something that we think is cool. I think that goes into a lot of the riffs that we have, is having some sort of hook or like melody, even if it's not like melody in the way you might think. It's just like the chord progression. There's just some notes that pop out, some stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, every riff matters. No filler riffs.
Yeah, that's a good credo.
Yeah,
that's a good one. So speaking of riffs, then give me all your favorite riffs off the record. Not all of them, but each of you give me your favorite riff off the new record.
Off the new record?
Yeah.
I already know mine.
Yeah, so two come to mind immediately. In Eternal Steel, the kind of like bounce part, the dun, 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 dun. That one goes off every night. The crowd just loves it, so that one's super fun to play. And then it's between Primal Panther and Vicious Instinct. Those two have some pretty cool riffs. I think I'm going to go with Yeah, the main riff to Infernal Panther is pretty sweet too. Yeah.
Mine's for sure Eternal Steel. It's that like it's just such like it feels like it belongs in like a dance hall. Like it doesn't even sound like it'd be like at like a heavy show. It's just like so groovy, so catchy, and yeah, everybody seems to vibe with it super hard. It's a nice change of pace, you know, from hearing the same like you know, like it's I love it.
Yeah, I would probably have to say, I mean, yeah, not anything new, but the title track. Yeah, same answer, just because, like, especially with the way the song's put together, like, going, like, a million miles an hour for whatever minutes, and then it slows down, and even that's not a slow tempo, but it feels so slow because of, like, how fast the song is going. It was, like, one of the first times successfully put together, like, one of those, like, riffs where it's, like, there's a cool moment, or they change it, it gets cooler, they change it a little bit, it gets cooler. Just keeps getting cooler until the end. Yeah, I've heard a lot of bands do that and like try to study that, but that was the first time I think put it together myself really well as far as the flow of those riffs, and it just ends in that dance riff. So it's like, you know, just a really cool moment. That's definitely got to be my favorite.
There's like no moment where the song loses energy whatsoever. That's probably my favorite part.
I'll say another one too. I just gotta do it because Price of Pain. Whenever the beginning riff, that's a good one. I remember Tommy sent me that pre-pro, and I was like, "This is the most I am riff I've ever heard in my entire life."
There you go.
I think sounds like it.
We've gotten to the bottom of what an I am riff is.
That was another one that I was like, "Man, this just grooves, man." It's not like it's not a fucking heavy breakdown. It's not a standard two-step riff or whatever. It's just groovy.
Yeah,
it goes.
Before I move on to the next topic, I do have to point out, Chris, where you're sitting and how you're sitting with your hair and the fan behind you. It's really reminiscent of those Jesus portraits or like Mother Mary portraits where you have the halo thing around him.
That's hilarious.
It's got that vibe. I just wanted to point that out. That's all I think of when I'm looking over at him. I'm like, it's fucking very Jesus-like.
Quick funny story. My niece, one time, my stepbrother and them were in the car. They were on a highway. There was a billboard of Jesus up on the wall. He's like, "Oh, look, it's Uncle Chris." It's pretty adorable. But
yeah, Jesus likes death metal and deathcore and stuff like that too.
Yeah. Jesus likes that.
Yeah. So let's get into like some kind of like where you guys are from. You're from Texas. Let's talk about some of the Texas heavy music scene. Kind of like school the kids and the listeners as to like what makes the Texas heavy music scene.
What makes it? I mean, definitely the legends that like come from Texas. There's obviously Pantera, but like more closely in our scene, like there was always like Iron Age and Power Trip to look up to, and like Mammoth Grinder, Eternal Champion. There's like tons of different subgenres, each like doing really, really well, or like making good music to like grow up off of in the scene. So like a lot of that kind of metal influence, like thrash that we hear from Texas, that comes from like the fact that everyone loved Iron Age and Power Trip and that thrash sound or whatever. Then there's like death metal and you have like Kubla Khan's been doing this stuff for years, so I think that all kind of like trickles down into like this pool of a sound that like we kind of tend to have here in Texas. But yeah, I mean, as far as bands that go off, like we just did a fest and put on like a lot of the bands from DFW that we believe in or that we like, and there was like Tribal Gaze, they're obviously killing it. Ballista, Earn. Just like a ton of friends, our friends in Life Cycles. And it was just, just a lot going on here in Texas. So, I don't know, there's just so much talent to pull from. So we just feel like, I'll do a fest out of it, literally every kind of subgenre is kind of doing their own thing and really showing out for each other.
The camaraderie is something that's like, especially within recent years, I feel like it's been very sick to see in Texas, because it feels like lately it doesn't matter whether you're death metal, thrash, hardcore, punk, whatever you claim or whatever you want to do, everybody's vibing, everybody's having a good time, everybody's supporting each other. Like it's been really awesome to see.
Yeah.
You know, like he was saying, I think it goes back to the base that we have. We have such a good base of bands that have like put on for Texas. You know, like when I was coming up, you know, I was just getting into, you know, deathcore stuff. That was like the craziest stuff I had ever heard. But I'd always known about Power Trip and Iron Age, and I was like, these are the sickest bands ever. And like those were the only two like, you know, thrash hardcore bands that I listened to at that time. And like that was still like, to see that it crosses over to that world too, no matter what. You know, I feel like it sets that base and that foundation for everybody. That's very like very Texan. You know, it feels like Texas music. You know,
that's why
you get people saying, "Oh, like, you know, like Texas is different." You know, there's something in the water there. You know, like all the bands, like they sound like Texas, even though they all sound so different. You know, it's like you just got your own little flair, your little twang.
Yeah, that's kind of why I asked, because it does seem like when you hear bands like, you know, you brought up Kubla Kai and some other bands like that, they definitely do have a you know, like a heavier sound, but also like it kind of seems like a lot of those bands from the state, whether it's because it's so damn hot or something, you know, that kind of vibe just seems to seep through the music. And you know, it's kind of one of those things where like there's bands that are from, you know, places where they get snowed in for like half the year and they're all pissed off because they're snowed in, but it's kind of like, you know, Texas is so pissed off because it's so fucking hot. It's like 140 degrees, you know, all year round.
Right? So it's a different type of brutalness, bro.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. Since the guitar players are here sitting with us, what's with the influx of like, you know, dive bombs in songs and stuff like that for like, you know, like squeals and other kind of notes, but I've noticed a lot of dive bombs in the last like year or two, not just on your record, but like on all of the metal records. It's like a coming back or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, like we had that one on our first record. I know you're not talking like specifically about us, but we did have one in the first record, and like
as the people
just lost their minds.
Yeah, it was just that one.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we were like, okay, people like that. But I mean, and now we're just like kind of just been trying to do them in cool spots or to like end a solo, whatever the deal is. But yeah, I feel like there's just something about hearing a dive bomb like get over a really heavy riff that just everyone wants to speak over. Yeah.
I think it's been missing for so long that it like, you know, maybe it was you guys, you know, in 2018, 17 or whatever. Maybe it was you guys that, you know, is to blame for that resurgence. But, you know, it's one of those things where a lot of older, I don't want to say tactics or sounds, but older elements are kind of like resurfacing. And it's not just, like I just literally was talking to Donald from Obituary, and they're not into the, like doing the heaviest, doing the best, fastest parts or craziest parts. They like to keep it real simple and, you know, do what they do best. And it's kind of like one of those things where, you know, a lot of bands are reverting back to like the older stuff, not just old bands, but new bands too, that are just going back and, you know, showing homage to those types of things. But that is something I've noticed in the last like 12 months for sure, is the use of dive bombs, not just by your band, but by all bands, is like up tenfold. I mean, like there's like hardcore bands that are doing it now.
It always comes in waves with those different, you know, little ear candies, you know. For the longest time it was panic chords, you know.
Loved it.
Big thing that everybody loves, you know. So like it comes in waves and it comes in waves, you know.
What are some?
There's different explanations as to why it ended up like that, with, you know, everything those waves. But for me, like it makes sense because like nobody in my family, or I wasn't like raised on any like metal or anything like that. So like once I found, you know, I guess like or whatever bands I was into at the time, I would just like listen to their favorite bands and it just like trail back. So like when I heard like Metallica and Black Sabbath and all that, and like older guitar music, like that was like brand new to me when I was like a teenager and stuff. So like that was like the Bible to me. Like I was hooked on that, so it makes sense that I would want to emulate a lot of like 80s, 90s like guitar stuff. And the deeper I get into guitar playing, the more I see like crazy stuff from like Jason Becker, like whatever person you're a fan of, like you want to you want to see some of the cool they do and like take a little piece of it. So like that might be what some guitar players are doing now. But I mean that's how I came to like wanting to do all the stuff I do. But yeah, just because like all the old stuff, like you normally go from the older music and then newer music, but like mine was completely backwards. So.
Yeah, no, I feel I have the same kind of journey. I didn't have an older brother or a family that was into heavy music in general, and so like when I stumbled upon it, I was already mid-teens or late teens, and I had to I was the source for all my friends. So like they started with new metal. Sorry guys, but that's just where I was at first. No, not you guys, but sorry to my friends. Sorry to my friends for.
I must have there too. Everybody's got it. Don't be ashamed of anything you like, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I love new metal now, and to be honest with you, I'm here for the resurgence that seems to be going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands killing it now. Yeah.
So you guys fuck with it then, obviously. So what are some new metal bands that you guys are fond of?
The Texas band, Unity, Texas. Yeah, they're guaranteed by far one of the sickest new metal bands out there, doing it good. Orthodox. I mean, I don't know how much they would call themselves new
They're
metal.
Like a new core. They're like a new core kind of.
Yeah, I would still put them in that realm. They're crushing it. There's a lot of bands that are doing well in that realm. I think Zone Zero type of new metal, right? Yeah. The promoter tonight. His band Zone Zero. They're from Columbus.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands doing new metal.
We had Power Man 5000 here the other night.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't go see them, but I'm bummed about that. But it was also like a $40 ticket, and I was like, I don't know if that's the move for me tonight to see Power Man 5000 at 25 years later. You know what I mean? I've never seen them, but it might have been the move. Who knows?
Yeah.
So what else do you guys get into outside of just probably obviously barbecue, being in Texas and stuff like that? Do you guys what's fun to do down in there?
Yeah, I just graduated college, so in December, so literally after I finished the record, I just say in 2020, I just went back to school, and that's all I've been doing since, except for kind of non-school, just doing everything for the band, putting all my time towards the band, as far as spinning, touring, and then I had to fly back home for a presentation. So yeah.
So you're juggling both at the same time?
Too fun or too crazy outside of music. Just hitting the books,
Yeah, I've teched for a couple bands last couple of years. I did Every Time I Die's last tour, Bella Maya, and then I was recently working with Ice Nine Kill. So been doing a lot of teching, guitar teching gigs with some other bands. So that's kept me pretty busy and kept me on the road a lot. And then this year I'll be doing Lauren Shore, so it'll be pretty cool. Yeah.
I actually now that you say that about the Every Time I Die tour, I remember you being there because I was.
Oh really?
Yeah, I was there at the Jacksonville show. I was there way before Doors and Load In and all that shit, and that's when it solidified everything that I had probably thought was going on internally with the band. That day definitely solidified it. I had some
for sure.
I had some I had some
theories.
Yeah, when I was at Furnace Fest, and I've talked about this on the podcast, but it didn't look everything didn't look ideal or on the up and up, and then that show, I was like, that definitely doesn't look like it's on the up and up. And then literally a week later, the shit hit the fan.
It was a crazy show too. It was packed out.
Yeah, it was a good show. Honestly, I thought maybe you were in Chamber at the time. That might have been why, because Chamber was on that show.
Yeah,
too, right?
I feel that. Yeah, no worries, man. That was
Yeah, but
We're moving this further real quick. It's getting a little loud out here.
Hey, you can go wherever. I'm along for the ride.
They're probably about to start sound checking here soon.
I'm along for the ride. We only got about 10 more minutes or so anyway, so I don't want to keep you all day long.
There we go. We got a cool vibe in here.
So
it looks like Jesus stuff.
No, it's bummed out. So Chris, how many people ask you about your time with the band with Every Time I Die? Not to go off topic from your band, but obviously.
No, you're good. You're good. I would say there are like those people that I meet that are like, extreme Every Time I Die fans, and they obviously have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I try to obviously keep that's their business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, but people definitely have lots of questions and such.
Yeah, there's a God, you were there for some pivotal moments in that fallout too. Obviously, we can't talk about that on camera.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, the thing that sucks mostly about all that is
that was my first tour too.
That's a rude awakening. Rude awakening.
Yeah.
I did have Jordan on the podcast over the summer.
Okay.
Where he spilled basically every bean in the fucking cup, but.
Yeah,
we never aired that episode because it's probably best not to do that. But it's like 6 hours.
Yeah,
long. It's like a 6 hour long podcast, and it's nuts, but it's also like very depressing. Very depressing.
Yeah, for sure. Mad love to Jordan and all those dudes. Really.
Yeah.
They were really good to me. So yeah, miss those guys.
Well, let's get back to I Am. Let's talk about that band,
Yeah.
not the other bands that are no longer bands anymore.
Yeah.
So you guys are on a kind of like a mixed package tour. Do you guys prefer those kinds of tours, or do you want to be more so of like, all the same genre lineup kind of tours, or do you like playing to like mix?
Yeah, I love doing tours like this.
Yeah.
I mean, in reality, I Am has really never fit on any bill we've ever been on, probably. Like, if you're looking at it on paper, it's like, it doesn't really fit. But we always do well on those tours because, we are such an oddball on a lot of bills.
Stick out.
Yeah, like even we did Nile, Incantation, and St. Lusugabog this past year. And it's like, okay, on paper, it's like, okay, this is a very metal tour, but like, we still stick out like a sore thumb. Like we're not even close to what any of these bands sound like.
Yeah.
So I feel like it always works out in our favor.
Yeah.
We're always something different. We break up the monotony of bills that are okay, death metal. Oh, here's this band. You know what? This is different. This is weird. It's funky. I can kind of shake my ass a little bit. It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it works in our favor.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does too. I actually saw you guys not that long ago, November, I think, when you guys came to town with your label mates, Rhythm of Fear, or new label mates, Rhythm of Fear.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
You guys played Archetype, which unfortunately is no longer around. They closed down, so that's not.
I heard that was like one of the last shows they had there.
Seriously.
Yeah, it was.
Unfortunate.
It was a
Love that
bummer.
spot.
It was a bummer, but we now have a Jamaican restaurant that does shows, so
Cool.
we've swapped it out. We swapped it out, and that's where No Cure and Chamber are going to be playing down the street here at the Island Tropics Jamaican spot, which is it has like a big, not big, but it has like a New York feel to it. It's like obviously a Jamaican restaurant with like a buffet thing, but there's a hall on the next side. And it's basically just like a long hall that looks very New York-esque. It's like a restaurant that everything just moves to the side. Next thing you know, it's like a venue.
Honestly, sounds about like every New York venue we've played. That's like 100, 150 cap. It's like a deli type bar thing, and then go through a door, and it's just this hall of like nothing. It's
yeah. It's
maybe a little stage that's like 6 inches tall.
No stage.
No stage. That's
no stage.
Even cooler.
No stage in the Jamaican restaurant. Don't got time for that. Barely have sound. It's a good spot for the scene to kind of like do the shows. Yeah. Well,
it's like probably the only thing. So that's the only downside of this tour. It feels like we got a bunch of barriers every show.
Yeah, that is a bummer.
Big stages, you get big barriers.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm curious as to like, because sometimes big shows don't have barriers and then some do, and I always wonder like, obviously that's probably like an insurance and a promoter situation for the most part, but
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, the ones that don't have barriers are
I don't even know what.
But it's also like how do those shows like FYA and all those other like LBD or LGB and all those other festivals, how do they do it? So because they're not small, they're not huge, but they're not small shows. They get away with it, and I think that's just
But I feel the culture of the people that are going, like like if you take the people that are coming to see that is murdered, they get a hate tour versus people that are going to FYA, like. Not everybody that's going to come see that art is like trying to spin kick their hearts out, so it's like whenever you get a room full of people that do that, it's like they know what's going on, they know
etiquette, they know not to get on stage and go like this all over the vocalists and like, oh my god, I love you so much. Like, you gotta have
stage potato signs. No stage potatoes.
Yeah, so it's definitely like he was saying.
Yeah, like I went to FYA like last year and this year with some friends, and it's like, like it looks like madness, but they know what's going on. So like I think kind of how they get it, and also the people throwing the show know that about the crowds, so not to worry too much about. I haven't really seen anybody getting walked out or real hurt at FYA either here. I mean, maybe I missed it, but like it's like kind of like controlled environment there, so it's like I get it.
Yeah, I have a love-hate.
Everybody knows what's going on versus I feel like a lot of people that come out to these shows, they're 1 or 2 outings a year. This is the show I get to go to.
Yeah, right. I definitely have a love-hate relationship with the hardcore dance. I love it. I shouldn't say love. How do I express this? I love it, but I hate being there and it going on because like. Ideally, I do like to stand in the crowd, and I like to stand by the pits because I like to be around the action, right? I like to be around the action and have everything going on in front of me. But sometimes, and I was wondering to myself, but Jay from Mind Force was on Hardlore, the Colin Young's podcast or whatnot, from Twitching Tongues and God's Hate. Yeah. And he brought up a point that he was like, only like the craziest dudes were moshing like everyone moshes nowadays. It's like everyone is like a nut job moshing, and like if you fight somebody back that like clobbered you, like crowd killed you or whatever, you're the dickhead now and you're getting tossed out, whereas it used to be kind of like slightly the other way around like 10, 20 years ago. And it's one of those love-hate things I've got with that little part of the scene because I love watching it. And I love it being a part of and I understand it as a part of it. Like you said, it's a known culture, right? So like people know exactly what they're expecting to see and witness when they go to these places and maybe even partake in. But I also don't want to be the guy that's like always guarding myself from trying to watch the show, So it's a love-hate thing. The older I get, that's where I go, but...
like I used to be... I was watching a video the other day of me moshing to KublaCon in like 2013 or something, and I was like, dude, I could never do that again. Like, not a chance.
Yeah.
So it's like, you get older and you're just like, man, I'll let the youngins have this one. I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the show.
Yeah. It's also crazy how big moshing in general has gotten, just outside of even, like your standard rock and push mosh, like circle pit situation, like, rap shows and EDM shows and all these other kind of shows are now expressing themselves in that kind of manner, and it's kind of odd to see.
It's honestly like it's got to be the influx of new kids coming around post-COVID. Like I feel like I've seen. Especially in DFW. Pre-COVID, I was like, okay, I know like. Here, like I at least in one way or another, like have seen them around, and going to shows post COVID, I'm like, holy shit, man, this is just a whole new wave of kids.
So it's I definitely remember a very distinct moment. Like it was the first show back in DFW, at least for like our scene. Like Frozen Soul did, I don't know, they randomly announced a show at this brewing company, and I was like, okay, I'll go see some friends, go see the bands. Like I got there with my friend, and I was like, dude, I don't know anyone here except for the band. And it's like, it's like an entirely new scene, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see.
Yeah,
very beautiful to see.
And I think
it's exactly what it needs.
I think deathcore was one of those genres that definitely benefited from the pandemic, if you can call it that. Like, like bands, they were bands that just like went nuts. Like Brand of Sacrifice was one of those bands in the beginning of the pandemic that, people might have like heard about, or they did some things here, but then toward the end of the pandemic, their Lifeblood record had already came out, and it was just crazy. They were on like just this big swell, and they were leading the charge of like all this like new breath of deathcore, come along. So that would make sense as to why, like, when everything comes back, there's a bunch of new faces and, more young people, I would assume, hopefully. But
yeah, and you get. There's one thing that irritates me to see is all these people posting about how they're not enjoying the new kids, or they're making fun of them for acting silly or stupid at shows. It's like, man, like, shut up, bro. Like,
Nobody cares.
yeah, and it's like, if anything, just teach them show etiquette. Teach them about the culture.
yeah, that means they have to talk to somebody and be nice to somebody, and that's just like, no one wants to
you
do
were
that.
new once too. You probably danced like a fucking idiot before. Like, it's all about giving back to the other generation and not being a discal asshole. Like, you have to keep this stuff going. Don't take it for granted.
I agree.
Or go back to your local band playing to 15 kids a night. Like, no. I see some local shows that are pulling 200-300 kids. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That shit didn't happen, for a long time.
Yeah.
And so now that it's back to doing that, you want to make fun of kids for coming out? It's crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's always going to be a little bit of that no matter what, but I think the overall thing to do is to educate when you can, and obviously if you don't want to, then don't bitch about it. But those are your two options there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, boys. Well, let's end it on this. Who should we be looking out for on the next come up?
I was gonna say Travel Gaze, but everyone already knows.
They're already on the phone. Listen, I'll put this out there. We want this band to do the biggest things in the world. But Live Cycles from San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah.
That is the band.
Yeah.
They don't even know how good they are. And straight up, they could just be the biggest thing ever. And they're so good. The sickest people, coolest band. They're like a crossover thrash band, modernized.
There's like a band where we play with them, and I'm like, damn, we gotta play next.
Yeah.
They are so damn good, and like, they just haven't really played out of Texas ever, and like, they could do such great things. So anybody listening, go listen to Life Cycles from San Antonio, Texas. It'll change your shit.
Awesome. And I'm just now realizing I think I've had most of your tour package on the podcast. I just did Thy Art a little bit ago. I had Alex from Undeath on a little bit ago, and now you guys. So
there you go, baby.
Yeah.
I think
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, we got to get the other bands on there.
I'm sure you did justice for the Dam. They're great guys.
We can get anybody. I'm sure. It just takes some time and some scheduling. Obviously, like scheduling isn't always the best, and it's hard to do.
Yeah, no kidding.
Ideally, I'd like to bring these back to in-person podcasts, but then I'm just kind of stuck with whoever's coming through town or coming.
I did watch a few of the in-person ones, and I was like, man, that's cool.
What do you think? I think that is I think that's an easier conversation.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anytime, any conversation you ever have is just so much more, so much better.
Yeah. Plus, then you can have like a beer or some other things and hang out, and it's more like it breaks down that little wall of like now we're sitting by our computer or your phone, and you're all huddled over like sardines trying to stay in frame. Where,
right.
Kicking it back on the couch is one thing. So we're definitely going to bring that back. Just we got to move into a studio to do that, and we're getting there step by step. But But anyway, boys, I appreciate your time. Have a great, sporadic pop-up show tonight, obviously, and then the best of luck on the rest of the Hate tour with Thy Art. So, thanks for your time, man.
I appreciate it, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Cool.